And we made a list of the different questions we are receiving. So let us maybe already start with the first question. It's a question coming from Sandy, and she's asking, how does the Europe and the Middle East and Central Asia react differently on stigma and mindsets? Don't we need to take that into account, and how do we see that, and how do we evaluate that in a good way? I think they are very good questions, both for Shelly and for Emma. I think you're well placed to answer that. Can we start with you, Shelly?
Sure. So thank you, Mark, and wonderful listening to all the speakers. In terms of the differences across regions, it's not just about the regions. There are many differences in the way how people perceive and take care of their ears, their hearing, how they protect it, and how they also address hearing loss or seek care. Not just, like I said, depending upon the region, but also it depends a lot on the cultural context at times and the national context. And from WHO, what we do is provide tools and resources that can raise awareness, which are giving a global viewpoint, but which can also be customized according to the need of that particular region, that particular country, that particular state or community. So we invite really everybody to do research in this field, see what is most appropriate, what steps are most suitable to address the misperceptions and stigmas that are related to wherever they are, and to then address them systematically. And you're welcome, of course, to use the WHO resources by adapting them to your context. But Emma, please jump in and give the regional context. I think that would be useful.
Thanks. And I mean, I agree with everything you've said, just in terms of the context differs regardless of the region. It can differ from country to country, but it can differ within a country. You may have different context in rural versus urban environments. You may have different context depending on level of education. So contexts vary regardless of where we are, and that means that our understanding of hearing loss, our understanding and perceptions and stigmas, they change depending on who we're speaking to. I think what it really highlights is the importance of person-centered care across everything that we do, and acknowledging the importance of what the person needs for their own well-being. But when we're looking more systematically at a policy level, that we really start from a solid understanding of what the contextual factors are and what is critical for that country, for that region, for that area, acknowledging that no two areas or no two countries will be the same, and that there may be specific limitations that need to be addressed in a particular region. And that is the beauty of things like the WHO tools, which are meant to be customized. They're developed with that in mind, with the understanding that we are going to need to change them depending on the country context. And as you were saying, that is, people are welcome to do that with those tools.
Thank you, Emma. And maybe also Lidia can shed some light on that, because I guess that European Federation of Hard of Hearing is all over Europe. Do you see that your members, Lidia, have different views on stigma, have different ways to handle hearing loss? Do you see differences in Europe among your members, how it's handled and how they react to it?
Thank you. I mean, thank you for Emma and Shelly input as well. So from someone who has hearing loss and encounter different situation in daily life, it is very interesting for me to see the differences even between Europe. Now, I'm Polish by birth, and I have lived for many years in Poland, and I still have very keen interest and often visit Poland. But I also am now residing in the United Kingdom, and I see the differences even between United Kingdom and Poland. The way how much easier people understand that I have a hearing loss, so they still assume that I know sign language, but they ask what I need. Whereas in Poland, for many, many years, I would see that the assumption is, of course, all we need is sign language and everything is resolved. So, and the way the people also communicate with me, if I point out that actually the assumption is wrong, in the UK, the response is much more empathic, much more understanding, okay, I got it wrong. How can I help? How can we find the best way forward? Whereas in Poland, I have had situations when the response was quite negative. So I can understand why members of the European Federation may have different experiences depending in which country they live. Is this to do with the way we are being brought up? Is this to do with the ignorance? Is this to do with any of our reasons? It's very difficult to tell, but I think we have still quite a lot of work to do. And when it comes to countries from outside of Europe, I think from my interactions with colleagues from outside of Europe, the situation can be really difficult to try even to raise the voice and say, I am hard of hearing, I need something else. It's very difficult for them to get their voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Lidia. And I still remember that we had the World Hearing Forum in November in Geneva. And you suggested to make a picture of all the people using hearing aids and hearing technology and stand on the stairs. And I was surprised when I saw that picture because of many of those people, I didn't know at all that they were using hearing aids. And I'm an audiologist on top of that. But I think what was remarkable, how dynamic all those people were, how outspoken they are. And I think that to change misperceptions, it's a very good idea to show hard of hearing people using their efforts, showing how strong they are. And as you rightfully say, you're not an audiogram, you're not a disability, you're a person with possibilities, potentials, and using that to the fullest, and that's exactly what we need to use. So I think the proof of the pudding is in the eating, as they said. Well, let's show people back this. My other concern is that if you talk about stigma, it's a little like depression. It doesn't help to say, well, the sun is shining and you have a lot of money on your bank account, and then depression is gone. I'm afraid it's comparable to stigma. You need to see examples, you need to experience it to make it possible and to make this stand. Now, the next question is more directed to Stefan. I think it's coming from Margarita. She's saying that, hello, thanks a lot for the presentation. I would be curious to know from panelists, what are your thoughts about the increasing hearing aid features in daily use devices? Also, do you see emerging technologies that could perform similar functions to traditional hearing aids, especially considering the inconsistent and often inadequate reimbursement policies in European countries? And I'm happy I can pass that monkey on your shoulders, Stefan, please.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for the question, and thank you all for taking the time to listen and attend to this, from my end, very important topic. It's a pleasure to be on this panel. So from my end, when I look at hearing instrument technologies and how they have developed, it's really remarkable to see that we now have devices at different performance levels with very specific features and functions. We have basic technologies that really offer, are of great help for people in need. And then we have technologies with very specific features and solutions that help individual people with more complex listening needs, complex listening situations, also showing good benefit on these specific features. In terms of complexity, all the hearing instruments that we see today in the market have some form of an automatic functionality. So they identify situations automatically and then switch and select the optimal signal processing strategy automatically. So from the feature perspective, the complexity in terms of handling is absolutely manageable because it's managed automatically. But we can offer manual handling, manual interaction to people who want and are capable in handling that through an app. Now the question was, what about replacing technologies or other emerging technologies that we see? I think first and foremost, we have to understand that yes, there are a lot of emerging technologies, but we still have to understand that hearing instruments and earbuds, hearables that we see on the market today have different requirements in terms of technology and development and user needs. Hearing instruments of today are worn for 12 hours per day, 7 days per week, which is a very different requirement in terms of power consumption, wearing comfort, and reliability that these devices have. Also, if devices are reimbursed, they are reimbursed every 5 to 6 years. So that's the lifetime of a hearing instrument. And surviving such a time span with such a usage frequency at the ear is a complex technical undertaking. And so we have a couple of technical user need differences between emerging earbud technologies and hearing instruments that still are out there. Still, I think we can all benefit from these emerging technologies if we think about devices that maybe don't serve people with a complex, moderate to severe hearing loss. But if we think about people with mild hearing loss, maybe not even in hearing loss in audiometric terms, but a self-perceived listening difficulty, who might need situational amplification devices. And I think that's where we can benefit from these emerging technologies and also new solutions of helping these people. I think at the end of the day, from my end, what is most important is that we don't think about different categories, but that we think about a continuum and also a continuum of care. And how can we also help people from one segment to another segment? So I think that's a very, very important aspect for me. And regarding the reimbursement landscape, when I think of hearing loss and how it impacts quality of life and how it is a silent but very difficult or very heavy kind of problem and challenge for the person, I think it would be important to have a harmonized reimbursement across the entire European Union and at least reimburse the basic level technologies for everyone. When we think about the cost of the device, it's not only the device, but it's also a lot in the service and the service delivery. It's very important to have healthcare professionals help people at some point with being motivated, selecting the right technology, fitting it, and then also motivating in using it. So we should not only discuss reimbursement related to product, but we should always consider the very, very important aspect of service delivery and the work of the healthcare experts, the audiologists, or hearing aid acousticians and dispensers. Any additional comment, Mark, or any follow-up question? I hope that answered.
Well, I'd like to comment from the hearing care professional side of things. To be fair, I think that we should never be scared of new technology coming in. And the more technology that can help people to better communicate, the better we like it. I don't think we should be scared about it. The other aspect is that, of course, we need to ensure it's safe. So we're very happy that hearables have now transparency modes and can give some amplification. And most of those good quality A-brand hearables are also quite safe. So they take that into account, no problem at all. The other aspect is, and as you rightfully say, don't focus on the product, because focus on the use and focus on the service. You may have seen today, there was a LinkedIn post of a new article in the International Journal of Audiology stating that audiologists in the UK don't get the time and the proper training to be able to provide person-centered care. And that's a drama, because it's not about having the solution. It needs to be provided so it's part of people's life. They are fully empowered. And that is what changing mindsets is all about. It's not about hanging a hearing aid on people's ears. It's about making use its part for them. It's doing what it needs to do for them. And it's making it possible to explore all the possibilities and to live their life for the fullest. And I think that's essential. And we shouldn't complain too much, because in Europe, the refunding is fairly okay compared to the rest of the world. but I'm very happy that EFHOH makes this a frequent report on reimbursement in Europe, Lidia, and that we can convince our policymakers that they need to be sure that everybody who can benefit from hearing care technology, including services, should have access to that. And I think that's what you've been working on right now. Now, before giving you the floor, Lidia, there was also a question on the picture you have shown on that person having this huge shrimp on the ear, stating that hearing aids are horrible and what they have is invisible. Now, they are asking what kind of promotion or publicity that was, if that was something you found in the UK, and if you protested against publicity like this, because it seems quite gross. And maybe after that, you can also highlight a part of your reimbursement report from EFHOH, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mark. So, to be honest, it's been quite a few years ago when when we saw this advert, and I think it was in the UK. This kind of ugly kind of advert saying, "Oh, how wonderful our hearing aids because they are, invisible," and there was a lot of backlash, especially from the community of deaf and hard of hearing people saying, "Come on, you're making things worse, and you're making people who are about to look for the solutions to the situations they are in to be very conscious of the fact that hearing aids are a bad thing because you will be seen in a very bad ways. And that was a really wrong thing to do. And I use it all the time as kind of a warning that this is the worst possible way to advertise your product. Your product should be much more inclusive and much more in positive ways. For us, for example, from European Federation, when we look at the personal sound amplifiers, we understand that some people may want to go for them and that as the first solutions, but they soon may realize that this is not entirely solution for the situation they are in. And personal sound amplifiers, first of all, need to be safe. And they weren't safe often when we saw them years ago, before we did the report to the World Health Organization and the International Telecommunication Union, but actually they were very unsafe, and our members were protesting in their countries, respective countries, to shops which were selling them, saying, "Hold on a second, this is really unsafe product." So it is important that we understand, yes, don't focus on the product alone, but actually on the service. An audiologist will be the first person someone with hearing loss may meet, who will be able to guide them as well, reassure them on the ways how they can adapt and what there is a life after hearing loss, let's say. And that is very important. For this reason, we are very keen to see increased reimbursement levels in Europe, in the countries which have very poor levels. When children are supported, it is very much important part of their lives, and it's great that they are supported very well. What we're not seeing is the adults or even older people in the retirement age receiving the same or at least similar reimbursement as the children. And it's not about putting one group against another group. No, it's about making sure that the support is across the lifespan and making sure that everyone can get access to what they need. I do not want to see on social media some hard of hearing adults basically crowdfunding money and support just to be able to buy the hearing aid they need. This is not Europe. This should not be happening. And we need to make sure that everyone who needs the access received it. Everyone who needs the service of a professional receives it. So that's basically essence of our work and our advocacy. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much, Lidia. And then there's another question. I think it's kind of controversial. So it's Patrick Henning saying that a large bank is providing good quality mobile phones to their people so they can communicate better. Positive news. And then he adds, is it so that if more people with hearing impairment could be helped technically, the less sign language would be needed? That's his suggestion. Now, before we go into that debate, let us be clear. I think we're inclusive for all. So if people want to use sign language, and that's the main way of communication, it's not up to us. They say they can or they can't do that. It's a language, it's a way of communication. Is it so that if more people can use cochlear implants and hearing care technology, that there will be maybe less need for sign language and other support? It's something to be aware of. And I think Lidia is also an expert, and Shelly, on that as well, because some people think that if you have a sign language interpreter, it's okay for everybody with hearing loss, and it's okay for everybody using hearing aids. And let me tell you a secret. The vast majority of people with hearing aids and hearing loss don't understand sign language and can't use it. Now, for the deaf community and for those people using it actively, it's a wonderful way of communication. So it's not a choice between one or the other. And I think we need to be inclusive and respectful for all to be sure that we are inclusive for everybody. Would you agree on that, Lidia? And maybe also Shelly, can you add something to that?
Do you want me to go first?
Sure, why not?
No problem at all. No, I actually disagree on anybody saying that, okay, if we give a technical solution, then we resolve all the problems. In my presentation, maybe not everybody saw me when I was presenting, but I basically used this. We are not fixed. So it doesn't matter if you are receiving hearing aid or cochlear implant. Everybody has different background and starting point when it comes to hearing loss. Those who are born with hearing loss from early age, who are born deaf, will require and will benefit most likely from sign, because that's the only access they can get to language. Whereas someone who is like me, when I've lost part of my hearing at the age of 12, it's a completely different story. I want the access to the spoken language, but hearing aid, or right now, what I'm using is cochlear implant, is not 100% resolving all the situations where I am in, and that's when I need additional support, such as captioning or assistive listening devices. So thinking that we provide someone with hearing aids or cochlear implants, we do not need anymore to provide any reasonable accommodation is absolutely false. Everybody's different, and we need to make sure that we ask first, what do you need? And if someone asks for sign language, we should be provided it. If someone is asking for assistive devices or for captioning, we should be providing. They shouldn't be us and them. There shouldn't be a situation like that. Thank you.
Now, maybe before giving the floor to Shelly, because I want you to answer that as well, Shelly, because I know you have very strong opinions on that. I think I want to make use of you as a star also to conclude, to make some conclusions of this debate. Because I think we will stop after you have done that. I want to thank all the key note speakers and all the audience for the interaction. But please, Shelly, can you go and discuss this level of sign language? And if you wouldn't mind, could you also conclude this session? Thank you so much.
Sure. So I think we have conceptualized and put out WHO's position very clearly in the World Report on Hearing, which was published in 2021, which focuses on integrated, people-centered ear and hearing care. And this is really a holistic term. It's wide-based because it encompasses all aspects of ear and hearing care, starting from prevention, from identification, from providing treatment for those who need treatment for their ear problems, and also rehabilitation and support services. So it's really a comprehensive definition. And of course, the World Report on Hearing also puts forth strategies or a hearing package of interventions on how this can be provided. And in all of the aspects of hearing rehabilitation, there are, various means available, including hearing technology, use of hearing technology, rehabilitative therapy, as well as use of sign language, lip reading, and other alternate modes of communication, as well as captioning, provision also of assistive devices such as loop systems, etc. So I think it's important that we always consider this in the wider context, in the bigger context, always looking at what people need. And it's also important not to deprive in our efforts to kind of make certain strategies based on a resource or a particular strategy, not to negate the other one. Hearing aids, as Lidia pointed out, cannot fulfill, or cochlear implants cannot always fulfill the needs of those who require or prefer sign language. And likewise, a sign language access or interpretation cannot fulfill the needs of those who don't use sign language. So that is, of course, really integral to WHO's work, WHO's overall thinking about ear and hearing care, that both of these are essential. We know also of examples where children in deaf schools have been provided hearing aids, and the next day sign language interpretation stopped for them because they now had hearing aids. So those are exactly the kind of things we don't want to happen. Nor is the other way correct as well, that if you provide sign language interpretation, then all the needs for hearing care are somehow fulfilled, because every person is an individual, and we need to have that focus on people-centered strategies and person-centered care. So that is WHO's focus. It's not always easy, and countries often need to prioritize where they want to start from. What is the starting point based on the needs, on the priorities of the country, and also looking at the resources available in the country. And that is fine as long as there is a systematic, stepwise process to make sure that we ultimately have the right principles and we have the right goal in making ear and hearing care for all accessible. So I'll stop there, Mark, and also invite my colleague Emma to add anything if she would want to at this stage.
Thank you, Shelly. It's been a pleasure to be here, and agree with everything that you have mentioned. But just from a WHO Euro perspective as well, if anybody is here and would like to reach out to us in terms of the supports that we are able to provide at the country level, I'm more than happy to speak about those as well if you reach out to our team. So thank you again for the opportunity today.
You have some final words, Stefan?
From my end, I think this was a great session, very important session, and it's extremely important to bring hearing care to the forefront of everybody's attention, because as I said earlier, I think it's kind of a silent curse. People are not aware that it's taking place, and people are not aware of how much it impacts healthy living, and what the societal impact is. So from my end, this is, I think, where we have to change the mindset and open up and think about innovative and improved ways how we can help people and how we can change the perception and the relevance people give to hearing care.
Thank you, Stefan. Do you have some concluding remarks, Lidia, before we close the session?
Thank you for organizing it.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the good cooperation. Lidia, did you want to add some last words?
I'm actually about to take a photo of all of us. One more print screen.
Okay. So when we have the photographer Lidia working on that, that's perfectly fine. I would like to thank everybody, the joint associations, WHO, Europe, and Shelly for the time. Also the interpreter for making everything happening, and the speech to text in the different languages. And really all the interaction. I see many questions, many more than we have seen. We will try to provide you some of the answers we have seen before. Thank you all for joining us. celebrate World Hearing Day, and you don't need to stop at the 3rd of March. You can continue for the rest of the year. Hearing is so important and hearing care is essential. Thank you all the best. See you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.